reacting to your Monday Night Raw Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you follow me on X because I ask for your hot takes after every single episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every WWE Premium Live event. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident you're gonna fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Even while on vacation, we're on a different continent altogether, not in our office, and you're still getting your daily dose of Santi. But if you want even more daily doses of Santi, don't forget to check out the Patreon. Our nearly 45-minute review of this episode of Monday Night Raw is already up there with footage so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's available on patreon.com/SantiZap. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's read your stupid shit. Dirty Dom chants. I prayed for this and it happened. Ladies and gentlemen, I sit here in front of you as somebody that's been a huge supporter of Dominic Mysterio for the last year and a half. Some would say that I'm Dominic Mysterio's biggest glazer, but I'm gonna put that aside for a moment and I'm just gonna talk to you like a real human here for a second. I genuinely and truly believe that there is something big brewing for Dominic Mysterio in the near future. Not just because of these organic Dominic Mysterio chants that he was getting against the world heavyweight champion, which by the way, he put up a great match against Gunther and has great chemistry with Gunther as well, but because of the fact that I believe that he's about to usurp Finn Balor and steal the Judgment Day and become the new de facto leader of this group. I believe that we are maybe a few months away from an actual real main event push for Dominic Mysterio. You heard it here first. The New Day turn of both was genuinely surprising and made me feel things. This is good sports entertainment. We should care about the stories that they're telling and feel invested in the characters, and I felt that in this scene. Props to all three for how real it felt. This New Day segment may be my favorite segment of the entire year, and if you can even call it a heel turn, might be my favorite heel turn ever in the history of the WWE, because it was so unique. It was so different. It wasn't just, hey, now we attack the good dude so that we're by default the bad dude. No, this was something else altogether. This wasn't physically attacking somebody. This was destroying the soul, the heart of what made you who you were for the past 10 years in Big E, tossing it aside, destroying it so you can start something new, something darker, something more sinister. And because these guys have been so tight with one another for 10 years, this just felt real. It was gut-wrenching. It was tough to watch. It was sports entertainment. It was what the kids today call cinema. I know it's an overused term, but if there was a segment that deserved that term, fellas, it was this one. The New Day stuff was great. However, it's unfortunate that Odyssey Jones put a dent in the way the story was told and would have been executed better without him. It's funny because I try to envision where in the world they could have had Odyssey Jones in this story, how we could have gotten to this point that we ultimately got to with Odyssey Jones as part of the narrative, and I don't see how. Obviously, the circumstances surrounding Odyssey Jones are really, really darn awful. However, in this scenario, it's kind of a silver lining to that terrible situation because the removal really early on of Odyssey Jones from this story, I believe, allowed this story to get to this natural major climax without it feeling like we have a forced character in the narrative in Odyssey Jones. So I am glad that Odyssey Jones was ultimately removed from this entire picture because what we got here, the end result is so perfect, and I just don't see how we get to this exact same result with Odyssey Jones being part of the narrative. This Raw feels more Raw after WrestleMania than the actual Raw after WrestleMania. Best 2-hour Raw of the year easily. I 100% agree with that sentiment. That is the best 2-hour Raw since Raw went down from 3 hours to 2 hours, and I feel like we're starting to ramp up to that Raw on Netflix. They're really starting to make you remember that Monday Night Raw is the A show so that everyone tunes in for Netflix. I don't think that this is the greatest Raw of all time, like some people are saying, because although it was really great from a narrative and storytelling point of view, it wasn't the greatest from an in-ring perspective. It wasn't bad in that case by any regard, but it was lacking in that regard compared to the storytelling. But when compared to the other 2-hour Raws, This was fantastic, pretty much just off the back of the New Day segment and the opening segment with CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and of course Seth Rollins. Potentially keeping the Wyatt Sicks off another major event is very disappointing. They do everything to keep feuds hot and are constantly talking points, but seem to miss out on that big spot, like SummerSlam, Bad Blood, Saturday night's main event. And let's not forget Survivor Series War Games. I actually felt like the Final Testament and the Wyatt Sicks had a good enough feud that had been fully fledged out to warrant being on the most recent Premium Live event. And it is incredibly disappointing. I'm glad that the match is happening, but you've got two major events like back to back with one another. Sure, Raw Netflix isn't a PLE, but it's gonna be treated like one. Same with Saturday night's main event. It's not a proper Premium Live event, but it's gonna be treated like one. And I feel like those are two excellent dates where you could have elevated the Wyatt Sicks to be put in front of the most amount of eyeballs possible, considering the Wyatt Sicks are one of the most uniquely WWE things that the WWE currently has. And you've got a Karrion Kross that's been elevating his game over the last several months. I don't think that this should be on a random episode of Raw since it is next week. It should have been on a bigger stage. I agree with you. We all know Priest is gonna cost Balor at Saturday night's main event. And it's 100% true. It's like the most telegraphed finish that you could potentially telegraph. It's so obvious that Damian Priest is now going to pay back Finn Balor for the 2 times that Finn Balor has cost Damian Priest. It is incredibly obvious. And frankly, it makes me incredibly not excited whatsoever for this match at all, because Finn Balor, I've been saying, is the president, the club associate of the shoulda, woulda, coulda club. We always talk about Finn Balor as he should have been the one. He could have been the one. He should be the one. And now he's actually getting a world championship opportunity, but he isn't really, because this isn't building Finn Balor. This is just building another moment for Damian Priest. So it feels like a throwaway world title opportunity for the guy that we've been desperately hoping would get world title opportunities. I don't think that this is the major Finn Balor push that people think that it is. I think that we're just going to run in circles for a little while and continue to do Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. This is not the Finn Balor push that you and everybody have been waiting for. Dakota Kai for Women's IC Champ. She deserves her moment. The rest of Damage Control have had theirs. It's her time to shine. Look, when I look at that bracket, I'm totally cool with Dakota Kai winning. However, when I look at the bracket, it is a stark and serious and quick realization of how diminished the women's Raw roster is if your name is not Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan. It is a testament of how bad the WWE and Triple H have been at booking the Monday Night Raw women's division outside of their prize main event feud that is Rhea versus Liv. And now it seems like it's up to this tournament, up to this championship to elevate the women's division. Honestly, it would have been better if Triple H and WWE had been properly booking this side of the women's program on the main roster so that it feels like everyone is a major key player, because right now as it stands, it just sort of feels like a random field of 12 women in a tournament, and it just doesn't feel anywhere near as special as what's going on over on SmackDown for the United States Women's Championship. It's not even close.
Sammy, run from the taser, Sammy.
Oh my God! Oh, dude, look at this. Good God.
Before, what a debut. What a debut.
That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at the ridiculous WrestleMania 38 match between Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville in an anything goes match. We're looking at a wild intergender match between Penta El Zero Miedo versus Io Sky in Lucha Underground. We're looking at the short but awesome match between Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire. What a dumb name for a show. We're also going to be watching the Big Boom AJ Costco guys match that he just had at AEW Full Gear's pre-show. And we're looking back at the debut of the Shield during the triple threat match at Survivor Series between John Cena, Ryback, and CM Punk. You're going to be getting these watch-alongs and more, like our Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we're doing, and the Undertaker WrestleMania match watch-alongs as well. Again, all of this is available exclusively on patreon.com. I'll put the link in the description description, the link in the pinned comment. Come give it a try even for just 1 month, because I'm confident that you're going to fall in love with it. This is all content that just never gets uploaded to YouTube because we just simply can't. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. It's the reason why I'm able to do this as much as I do. Thank you very much, and back to the video. December 2nd better be in everyone's discussion for Raw of the Year. It was very good. It's not in my discussion for Raw of the Year. It might be in discussion for best storytelling segments of the year, and it just so happens that we had 2 in 1 episode. But again, there wasn't that like marquee match that could really make this episode stand tall, aside from it just being a great narrative episode. Fantastic episode, but I'm not, co-signing or stamping, sign sealing and delivering that this is the Raw of the Year. Finn versus Gunther is the most predictable match of the year. Priest will cost Finn. Yes, we all want that Finn push. However, this is just to set up Damian versus Finn again. Well, I'm glad other people see it, that it's not just me. This is not the Finn Balor push that you've been waiting for. This is just another avenue to set up another push for Damian Priest. And don't get me wrong, I love Damian Priest. I think Damian Priest should be getting pushed. It just kind of sucks that it's at the expense of Finn Balor. That's likely what's going to happen. And it sucks that we're pulling the trigger on a Finn Balor World Championship match at a major event like Saturday night's main event on something that doesn't even really feel like a Finn Balor storyline. This just feels like a Damian Priest storyline featuring Finn Balor and Gunther. Even with the return of McIntyre, I feel like the New Day 10-year celebration should have been the main event. In that one segment, we got the Big E return after nearly 3 years. One of the most heart-wrenching segments I've ever seen, in an unexpected heel turn of Kofi and Xavier. Dude, I was actually saying the same thing. This could have absolutely been the main event, but I feel like they wanted the most amount of eyeballs on that segment, and typically the most amount of eyeballs for an episode of Monday Night Raw are when the show begins and at the start of the second hour, which is where this segment was. Obviously, it's cool to be the main event, but the main event is typically seen by less people than the start of the 2 hours. So technically more people saw, I would assume, the New Day segment where it was placed than the Drew McIntyre return. But I get it, because being in the main event kind of has that aura of it was like the most important thing of the night. And I would agree with you that this New Day stuff was the most important, most memorable, most buzzworthy thing of the entire night, damn near of the entire year. One of the best heel turns ever. So I've already kind of talked about this. I do also think that this is one of the greatest heel turns, and it was just executed so perfectly, and it truly sets up Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods to have a proper run now that they've dissolved themselves away from the ever-looming shadow that was the return of Big E. We needed this to happen because it's true what Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston said, that Big E is a burden to them. And it's not because I don't like Big E or anything like that. He is a spiritual burden to them, because we will never see the New Day as whole, as complete, as competitive until Big E returns. So for us to be able to take a Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods tag team seriously without wondering when is Big E going to return, they needed to expel themselves of Big E and fully remove him from the picture, which is why they rejected his managerial duties, and which is why Xavier Woods went out of his way to tell you and me and everyone at home that you are not coming back, Big E. You are never coming back. And I don't think that he is. So in essence, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods had to tear down everything that they built together with Big E in the past 10 years, the legacy that they built together, the moments that they had together. They had to tear that all away to start with a brand new solid foundation that is just Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, that has no mention or discussion of Big E. This was necessary. After a 57-day wait, Drew is finally back. I'm so glad that he returned and we didn't have to wait for a Royal Rumble return or something. I think that we can all say that we missed him very much. Yeah, that's a very fair statement. I miss Drew McIntyre. You miss Drew McIntyre. You know what's crazy though? Monday Night Raw, WWE didn't need Drew McIntyre. That's how stacked WWE is, that they were cooking on all cylinders on the lead up to Survivor Series and in that actual episode of Monday Night Raw. And then boom, they bring back Drew McIntyre to just remind you of yet another main event player that WWE has had stashed this entire time. The WWE roster is so fucking stacked, it's not even funny. I do have a question, like, what is the plan for Drew McIntyre? I'm having a hard time visualizing what that is. Is it really a program with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso? And when I say, what's the plan for Drew McIntyre, I'm mostly talking like WrestleMania. At this point, we're in the road to WrestleMania. It's already started. We don't have to wait till the Royal Rumble. We're already there. So what do we do with Drew McIntyre for WrestleMania? I'm actually going to pose that question to you because as it stands, I don't know where the puzzle piece named Drew McIntyre fits. That being said, you can fit him wherever the hell it is that you want and everyone will love it. Adam Pearce teased the Judgment Day losing the tag titles. For the love of God, please give us new champions. Yeah, we need new champions as soon as possible. We do not need the Judgment Day as tag team champions. I've already kind of beaten that drum. Like you already know my feelings towards the Judgment Day. I guess the question is, who do they lose the titles to? There's really not that many tag teams that they've built up on Monday Night Raw aside from the War Raiders. We have the newly reunited Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods as a really viable option. We also could have a random ass tag team like R-Truth and Damian Priest being put together to dethrone the Judgment Day. Actually, the more I think about that, that is kind of awesome. I would love to see that. But the point stands, we need these tag titles to be off of the Judgment Day as soon as possible. The promo between Seth and Punk is not only a taste of this generational feud, but it also addresses why Punk joined the War Games match and Seth didn't. Also, I have a feeling that Punk may use the quote favor that Heyman owes him to help him main event WrestleMania since he said he knows what the future holds. I feel like that's now the prevailing theory and that would make sense that Paul Heyman would have the political pull within the WWE to give somebody like CM Punk the main event of WrestleMania, which is something that he's chased for his entire career, something that he's never been given, and something that fans would absolutely adore to see. The question is, what is that WrestleMania main event? Is it a match against Seth Rollins for the world title? Maybe it's a triple threat, Seth Rollins, Punk, and Roman Reigns. Maybe that ends up happening. Either way, I'm kind of in agreement with you here. I do think that that's what the favor that he's going to ask of Paul Heyman is ultimately going to end up being. I'm happy that Brock beat Kofi in 6 seconds. That's fucking hilarious. I have to keep that in. The promo between Sami and Seth was so good. I'm glad that they've also acknowledged the fact that Roman still hasn't apologized. Friday night might be intriguing because of this. Every single episode of Hot Takes, I'm going to bring it up. Roman Reigns has not yet apologized, and he absolutely needs to apologize. But what's funny is that they really brought up a great point. Everything that Roman Reigns became, everything that Roman Reigns would go on to do in the name of the bloodline, all of the terrible, heinous things that he did, all happened from the first domino falling, which was Seth Rollins hitting Roman Reigns in the back. The line from Sami Zayn telling Seth Rollins that monster, he created that monster when he hit him in the back with a chair, was so ruthlessly cold, and I loved it. I also love that Seth Rollins fired back and said, and you know how much of a monster he became because you also hit him in the back with a chair. So I love that these moments from the past are coming together and creating the narrative of today. I think that it's absolutely brilliant. But yes, Seth Rollins is the catalyst for everything that's gone wrong with Roman Reigns over the last couple of years as the tribal chief. When it comes to this title, it's between Dakota Kai and Zelina Vega. Look, when I look at this bracket, it's kind of crazy to me that they put Lyra Valkyria and Zelina Vega in the same match because I feel like a lot of people saw them as like really true, viable first women's intercontinental champions. So the fact that they have to eliminate one another in that match kind of stinks. But something tells me, dude, that it's not going to be any of the darlings that we want. Something is telling me in the back of my brain that it could be Natalia or Raquel Rodriguez, which I feel would set the internet ablaze, even though I like both of them. I hope the 2 world title matches don't end up with interference. Randy Orton could interfere in one and Damian in the other. Of course, he's referring to Saturday night's main event. Oh, dude, they're both going to have interference. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're both going to have interferences. I'm going to spoil it for you right now. Randy Orton is going to attack Kevin Owens, and for sure, this is like the one I'm the most certain for, Damian Priest is going to cost Finn Balor. Like, that's just a certainty in life. This is the match card right now. Can this top Survivor Series War Games? Well, just the fact that it's got 3 world title matches on the show alone, like, makes this show incredibly important. I don't know that it's going to top War Games. It might top War Games like as an on-paper card, but I don't know about the end result. It's nice to see the WWE Championship being defended. It's nice to see the Women's World title being defended. It's nice to see Finn Balor in a championship match, even though I know how it's going to end up. So overall, so far so good with Saturday night's main event. The Rhea/Liv feud needs to end. The feud has gone on for months now. I mean, finally, Liv has a new contender, Io Sky, for her title, and Triple H started building more on that on the tag team match tonight. However, instead of adding a moment to really hype up their match on December 14th, he had Rhea come out and scare her off. Yeah, that's why I said that even though Io Sky is the contender to Liv Morgan, she isn't really. The end goal is still Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. I feel like a happy medium here would be if Rhea Ripley were to cost Liv Morgan the Women's World Championship, and then Io Sky takes that championship away from this vacuum of a feud that is Rhea versus Liv, and then Rhea versus Liv can continue to have their in a vacuum feud with one another without impacting and damaging the rest of the women's division, which is kind of what they've been doing by holding that title hostage within that feud. But I'm kind of with you. Kind of lame that they didn't use the post-match angle to build something for Io and Liv. Instead, they used it to once again build Rhea versus Liv, which is not a feud that needs building anymore. It's already like a clearly marquee feud for the WWE. It doesn't need any more steam. I don't think that it needs to come to an end. I'm not tired of it, but I feel like in this scenario, you're right. They could have absolutely used this moment to elevate the Io and Liv moment that's upcoming for Saturday night's main event. The quote that Sami said to Seth, quote, "You created that monster when you put a chair in his back 10 years ago," was just so good. I already talked about it in depth, but I'm just gonna say that that might be my favorite line of the entire year so far. I'm starting to think WWE might actually do something with Finn Balor. He had a totally different vibe compared to a few weeks ago. Brother, y'all have been saying this for like years now. Nothing's gonna change with Finn Balor. He's not gonna win the world title. If they didn't do anything with him after he was actually like red hot after what happened at SummerSlam and what he did with a dastardly heel turn, if they didn't do anything with that, they're not gonna do anything with this, brother. You're still dreaming, dude. Small detail, and maybe it's just me, but I rewatched the Punk/Rollins segment, and I think the fact that Punk and Rollins actually squared up instead of going for real moves like a GTS or a stomp really shows that the hatred between the two. Yeah, I think you could say that. However, it also like it looked incredibly goofy. This was like one of the worst, laziest looking brawls that I've seen on Monday Night Raw, a show that's become known for the brawls that include everyone from the back to come out and separate them. It just didn't feel like, even though these two have a generational feud, that this brawl was really representative of how generational of a feud this is. All right, folks, that's it for today's episode of Hot Takes. Thank you so much for submitting them. I'm out. Get out of here.